The night Minjun Park chose his date for his brother's wedding, he didn't pick a model, a social media influencer, or the daughter of a political ally. He walked into the sterile, high-tech kitchen of his fortified estate and pointed a manicured finger directly at the maid. Amara Okafor froze with a polishing cloth in one hand and a crystal glass in the other, unsure if she had heard him correctly or if the exhaustion of a 16-hour shift was finally causing her to hallucinate. Every muscle in her body locked tight. Every thought vanished from her mind, leaving only a static hum of panic. Minjun Park never joked. He was a man who commanded the city's underworld with a whisper, the most feared Korean Mafia boss in the state. He never smiled, he never made small talk with the staff, and he certainly never repeated himself. The mansion was silent, save for the rhythmic, heavy thud of security boots patrolling the marble hallways outside. It was almost midnight. Amara was finishing her last shift, trying to stay unnoticed the way she always did. She liked blending into the background. She liked being invisible because invisibility meant safety. But tonight, invisibility was impossible. Minjun stood in the doorway, framing himself against the dark corridor like a portrait of lethal elegance. He was still wearing the signature attire that struck fear into his enemies, a perfectly tailored black Mafia suit that hugged his broad shoulders and a crisp, white collared shirt that seemed to glow under the kitchen lights. His sleeves were rolled up to his elbows, revealing strong forearms and a silver watch that probably cost more than the entire neighborhood she grew up in. His raven black hair was slightly messy, a rare sign of a long day, but his jaw was tense, and his dark, almond-shaped eyes were fixed on her with a strange, calculating intensity she had never seen on his face before. "Sir," Amara whispered, her voice failing to rise above the hum of the refrigerator. She quickly lowered her gaze, staring at his polished black shoes. He studied her as if making a strategic decision that could not be undone, his eyes analyzing her posture, her fear, and her stillness. He took a step forward, the sound of his dress shoe hitting the tile echoing like a gunshot in the quiet room. "You," he repeated, his voice deep and vibrating with authority. "You are coming with me to my brother's wedding." Her throat tightened so painfully she thought she might choke. She had been cleaning the granite counters, her hair tied back in a severe, practical bun, her gray uniform wrinkled from long hours of scrubbing, her hands smelling faintly of lemon detergent and bleach. She should not even be in the same room with him, much less involved in his personal life. She placed the glass on the counter with trembling care, terrified that if she dropped it, the sound would shatter her life. I think you're mistaken, Mr. Park. I'm just the help." Kai, Minjun's right-hand man and chief of security, was standing in the shadows behind him, arms crossed over his chest, his expression unreadable. But even Kai, who had seen Minjun order hits and dismantle corporations, looked shocked. His eyebrows were raised high, his eyes darting between his boss and the terrified maid. Minjun stepped fully into the kitchen, closing the distance between them until he was looming over her. The scent of expensive cologne, tobacco, and rain invaded her senses. "I am not mistaken." Amara swallowed hard, forcing herself to look up. "Why me?" His gaze swept over her slowly. It wasn't a look of desire, at least not yet. It was a look of assessment. He was looking at her the way a general looks at a soldier before a battle. She felt exposed, even though she was covered from neck to knee in a shapeless uniform. "Every woman who wants to be on my arm," he said, his voice dropping to a low rumble, "has an agenda. They see the Korean Mafia boss. They see the money, the influence, the danger. They want to be close to the fire." He paused, his eyes narrowing slightly. "You don't want anything from me. Not money, not power, not my name. In fact, you seem to want to be as far away from me as possible." Amara blinked, confused. "I don't understand." "You are the only person in this house who looks me in the eye without pretending," he said. "You fear me, yes. But you do not lie to me." Grace's heart hammered against her ribs. She had never heard him speak this openly. She wasn't even sure he had a heart until this very moment. But before she could formulate a response, The sharp click of heels on the tile broke the tension. Madam Park, Minjun's aunt and the matriarch of the household, walked into the kitchen. She was a woman of steel and tradition, dressed in silk, her face set in a permanent expression of judgment. She stopped immediately when she saw the tableau, the powerful Mafia boss standing inches away from the cleaning girl. "Minjun," she said carefully, her tone dripping with warning. "Please tell me you chose a suitable date for the wedding. The Kims will be there. We cannot have people talking." He didn't look away from Amara. He didn't even flinch. "I chose her." Madam Park followed his gaze, saw Amara, and her eyes widened in horror. She clutched her pearl necklace, as if physically struck. "The maid?" she whispered, her voice full of disbelief and disgust. "You are taking the maid? Have you lost your mind?" Kai coughed into his hand to hide a laugh, shifting his weight by the door. Amara wanted to disappear into the floor tiles. She felt the heat rising in her cheeks, a mix of embarrassment and fear. Minjun turned his head slowly to face his aunt.
"Yes.
Amara will accompany me." "But she is staff," his aunt insisted, stepping closer, her voice rising. "She is a nobody, and the people attending the wedding are the elite of this country. Senators, CEOs, other family heads. You cannot bring her." "I don't care who they are," Minjun cut her off, his voice cold and sharp like a blade. "You seem to forget who stands before you, aunt. I am the head of this family. I am the Park family, and this is my choice." The silence that followed was deafening. Madam Park pressed her lips together until they were white. She glared at Amara with pure venom, then turned on her heel and stormed out of the kitchen, muttering in Korean about disgrace and tradition. Amara took a shaky breath, her hands gripping the edge of the counter for support. "Mr. Park, I really don't think you should." "Unless you are refusing," he said, turning back to her, his voice lowering dangerously. "Refusing him?"
Refusing Minyon Park.
"Refusing the most feared man in the city. A man who could destroy lives with a single word?" She knew the stories. She knew what happened to people who said no to him. She could barely force her lips to move. "I'm not refusing. I'm not sure why you want me there. I have nothing to wear."
"I don't know how to act around people like that."
"I've never been to a wedding like yours." He took one step closer, invading her personal space. "You make people underestimate you," he said. "That is an advantage. And tonight reminded me that I want someone beside me who keeps me grounded." She felt something heavy and warm twist inside her chest. No one had ever described her as an advantage. Throughout her life, she had been a problem to be solved or a person to be ignored. "I don't have a dress," she whispered, looking down at her worn sneakers. "That will be handled," he interrupted. "You won't go in your uniform." "Boss, are you sure?" Kai asked, stepping forward, his tone serious now. "She'll be surrounded by press, politicians, business giants, and our rivals. If she panics..." "My decision is final," Minjun stated, ending the conversation. He looked at Amara one last time. "Be ready at 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. A driver will pick you up." "And Amara?" She looked up quickly, caught by the command in his tone. "When you walk into that wedding on my arm," he said, his eyes sharp and serious, burning into hers. "You are under my protection all night. Everyone will know that. No one touches you. No one disrespects you." Her breath trembled. "Okay." He nodded once more and left the kitchen with Kai trailing behind him. The moment the door closed, Amara's legs gave out. She sat at the small staff table and pressed a hand to her shaking chest. Protection. His world.
His arm.
She didn't fully understand what that meant, but she understood enough to be afraid. Breathing unevenly, she walked to the back hallway where the staff lockers were kept. She opened hers quickly and pulled out a small, crumpled photo she kept hidden behind her uniform. It was a photo of a different life, a different city, a different version of herself. She stared at it with wide, tense eyes. If someone recognized her at that wedding, if someone remembered what happened 2 years ago, if anyone connected her to the man she once ran from, everything could fall apart. She closed the locker with trembling fingers. Tomorrow she would walk into a world where she absolutely did not belong. Tomorrow, every eye in that room would be on her. And she had no idea what Minjun Park had just dragged her into. Amara barely slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Minjun standing in the kitchen doorway, his voice echoing in her head. "You are under my protection." By 6 o'clock in the morning, she was standing in front of the small mirror of the staff bathroom, still in her uniform, hair tied up, dark circles under her eyes. Nothing had changed on the outside, but inside, everything felt different. What kind of woman becomes the date of a Korean mafia boss overnight? Certainly not her. At 7 o'clock sharp, the house shook with movement. Security walked faster. Staff whispered in the corridors. A black armored SUV waited outside the staff entrance, not the main one. Amara stepped out slowly, heart pounding against her ribs. Kai stood beside the SUV, checking his watch. "You're on time," he said, sounding relieved. He opened the door. "Get in." She sat quietly in the back seat as the car pulled away from the mansion. The city flashed by the tinted windows, cold morning light reflecting on the glass buildings. "Where are we going?" Amara asked, her voice small. "To prepare you," Kai replied simply from the driver's seat. Boss wants everything perfect. Perfect. Perfect for Minjun Park standards was a terrifying concept. The SUV stopped in front of an upscale penthouse building downtown. Amara hesitated before stepping out. She felt completely out of place with her old uniform and worn sneakers. Inside the private elevator, Kai pressed the button for the top floor. "You nervous?" he asked, glancing at her reflection in the metal doors. Amara nodded. "Just follow his lead," Kai sighed. "Don't overthink it. And don't fight it. The boss knows what he's doing." The elevator opened to a huge penthouse filled with natural light, polished floors, ivory sofas, and windows overlooking the entire skyline. A woman in her 40s, stylish and confident, walked toward Amara. "You must be Amara," she said with a warm smile.
I am Soin.
"Minjun called me personally," Sujin continued, circling Amara. "We have a lot of work to do." Two assistants appeared and guided Amara to a large dressing room.
She tried to protest.
"I'm just..." Sujin stopped her gently. "I know who you are and I know what is happening tonight. Listen to me, Amara. You are not just anything. Not for tonight. Minjun does not bring casual dates to family weddings." Amara swallowed hard. "But I don't belong in places like this." Sujin stepped closer, lifting Amara's chin with kind fingers. "Every woman belongs where she is respected. And Minjun Park clearly respects you." The preparation took hours. The first step was the hair. They undid her tight bun and washed the chemical smell of cleaning supplies away. Sujin's fingers moved carefully, applying treatments, brushing, and styling. When she was done, Amara's hair fell in soft, voluminous waves that framed her face, giving her a softness she hadn't seen in years. Next came the makeup. Sujin used rich, warm tones that complemented Amara's deep skin tone. She highlighted her cheekbones and gave her a natural glow. Amara stared at her reflection, almost frightened by the new face looking back. She looked powerful. But then Sujin stepped aside and revealed the dress. It was hanging on a golden rack, isolated from the rest. A floor-length, stunning emerald green gown. Amara's breath vanished. I can't wear that." Sujin smiled. "Oh, yes, you can." Minjun picked the color himself. He said black was too common and red was too aggressive. He wanted you in green. "Why?" Amara whispered. "Because green is the color of life," Sujin said softly. "And he said you are the most alive thing in his world." Amara's stomach twisted. He picked it. Sujin helped her step into the dress. As the silk slid over Amara's skin, she felt the world tilt. The fabric hugged her curves perfectly, the emerald color making her skin radiate. The neckline was elegant but bold. When the zipper closed, she didn't recognize the woman in the mirror. A shy knock came at the door. "Sujin? Is she ready?"
It was Kai.
"Come in," Sujin called. Kai stepped in. He froze mid-sentence. His eyes widened slightly. For the first time since she met him, the stoic security chief was speechless. "I'll take that as approval," Soo-jin smirked. Kai cleared his throat, regaining his composure.
Yes.
"That will work. The boss is waiting downstairs." They rode the elevator down again. Amara couldn't stop touching the fabric of the dress, afraid it would turn back into her uniform at any moment. Outside, another SUV waited. But this time, Min-jun stepped out as soon as the car arrived.
He was breathtaking.
He wore a fresh black Mafia suit, tailored to perfection, the white shirt crisp against his tan skin. His hair was styled back, revealing his sharp forehead and intense eyes. He looked untouchable. Min-jun walked toward her slowly, his eyes never leaving hers. For a moment, Amara forgot how to breathe. Kai opened the back door automatically, but Min-jun didn't move toward it. He stood in front of Amara, his expression completely unreadable. When he finally spoke, his voice was lower than she expected. "Turn around." Amara hesitated, heat rising to her cheeks, but she obeyed. She turned slowly, letting him take in the dress, the hair, the change. When she faced him again, his jaw flexed. He stepped closer, too close, and fixed a strand of her hair behind her ear with a slow, deliberate touch. His fingers were warm against her skin. "You look," he paused, his eyes lingering on her face, "perfect." The word made her heart race uncontrollably. Min-jun held out his hand. Not a command, but an invitation. "Ready?" "No," she admitted in a whisper. He smirked faintly, the closest she had seen to a smile. "Good. I don't trust people who walk into danger without fear." She swallowed. "Is it really danger?" His eyes locked onto hers. "Everything in my world is danger, Amara." He guided her into the SUV, his hand resting possessively at the small of her back. Inside the car, their shoulders almost touched. The tension was so thick she could feel it in the air. "Why green?" she asked softly as the car merged into traffic. Min-jun turned his head toward her. "Because everyone expects the Mafia boss to bring a woman in red or black. Green is unexpected. It demands attention without asking for it." He looked at her profile. "Like you." The car drove through the city, approaching the luxurious hotel where the wedding would take place. The closer they got, the more anxious Amara felt. Min-jun extended his hand again, palm up. "Amara." She looked at it, then at him. "You walk in with me," he said. "You stay on my arm. You do not talk to anyone alone. You do not leave my side. I will not let anything happen to you tonight." "Why?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Why are you doing all this for a maid?" A long silence followed. His jaw clenched. Finally, he said, "Because when I look at you, I don't see a maid. I see the only real thing I have left." The car stopped. Cameras flashed outside. Guests turned their heads. People whispered at the sight of the Park family convoy arriving. Min-jun offered his hand, once more. Amara took it. He stepped out first, tall, powerful, commanding. Then he helped her out. As her emerald dress touched the ground and she straightened herself beside him, the entire front entrance of the hotel went silent. Whispers erupted instantly. "Who is she? Is that Min-jun Park? Is that the maid? Look at that dress." Min-jun placed his hand on the small of her back, guiding her through the stunned crowd with confidence, possession, and a strange hint of pride. Amara could hardly breathe. She was just a maid yesterday. But tonight, she was the woman walking on the arm of the most dangerous Korean mafia boss in the city. The moment Min-jun and Amara stepped through the golden doors of the hotel ballroom, the atmosphere shifted. A long velvet carpet stretched across the floor. Crystal chandeliers hung from above, like diamonds. Security guards in black stood along the walls, blending into the shadows. Guests in expensive suits and glittering gowns turned toward the entrance, and every single one of them stared at her. Amara felt exposed, almost fragile. But Min-jun's hand remained firm on her back, a constant reminder of his promise. He didn't rush. He walked proudly beside her. A man in a navy suit leaned toward his date and whispered, not quietly enough, "Is that the cleaning girl from the park mansion?" Amara tried to look forward, pretending she didn't hear, but Minjun slowed his pace just enough to glance at the man. One look. Cold, sharp, lethal. The man instantly straightened in fear, his face draining of color, and looked away. "Don't listen to them," Minjun murmured near her ear. "I'm trying," she whispered. "My knees are shaking." "Lean on me," he said. "I can handle the weight." They reached the center of the ballroom. Minjun's brother, Jae-wha, spotted them. Jae-wha broke into a wide grin, walking toward them with open arms. "Hyung," he called out. He hugged Minjun quickly, then stepped back and looked at Amara.
His jaw dropped. Wow.
Is this who I think it is?" Amara blushed.
Jae-wha.
Jae-wha blinked, then laughed, clapping Minjun on the shoulder. "You really know how to shock a room, brother. Amara, you look incredible. Truly." "Thank you," she said, her voice small. "This is all very overwhelming." "Oh, trust me," Jae-wha laughed. "Everything about our family is overwhelming. Just ignore the old vultures." Minjun guided her further into the room. Wherever they walked, the crowd split in two, unsure whether to greet the Mafia boss or avoid him. Some men tried to impress him with business talk. Some women tried to flirt with him, ignoring Amara entirely. But Minjun barely acknowledged anyone. His focus kept drifting back to Amara. He scanned the room constantly, not for gossip, but for threats. "Dance with me," Minjun said suddenly, stopping near the dance floor. "I don't know how to dance to this music," Amara panicked. "Follow me," he said, pulling her gently into the crowd. He placed one hand on her waist, pulling her closer than she expected. Her breath hitched. He took her other hand in his. They moved slowly to the music. "Look at me," he commanded softly. "Don't look at them."
So she did.
And suddenly, the room blurred. He moved with certainty, leading her with minimal effort. "See," he said quietly. "You're doing fine." "I feel like I'm dreaming," she whispered. "If this is a dream," Minjun said, his dark eyes searching hers, "then I do not wish to wake up." Amara felt a blush creep up her neck. For a moment, just a moment, she forgot about the danger. She forgot about the Mafia. She just saw a man who made her feel safe. But then, looking over his shoulder, her blood ran cold. Standing alone by the bar was a man. He wasn't drinking. He wasn't talking. He was watching her. He had a scar above his eyebrow and a look of predatory recognition on his face. Amara's chest tightened. Her breath stopped.
It couldn't be.
No, not here. Not tonight. Minjun instantly felt the shift in her body. His hand tightened on her waist. "What is it?" I think someone is looking at me," she stammered. "Everyone is looking at you, Amara." "Not like this," she whispered, terrified. "Minjun, look by the bar." Minjun turned subtly, spinning her in the dance, so he could see. His eyes locked onto the man near the bar. The man didn't look away. He smirked and raised a glass in a mocking toast. Minjun's body went rigid. The temperature around him seemed to drop 10 degrees. "Who is he?" asked, his voice dropping to a dangerous low. "His name is Damon Cross," Amara whispered, tears forming in her eyes. "I haven't seen him in 2 years. I ran away because of him." Minjun didn't ask questions. He didn't hesitate. He stopped dancing immediately. He took her hand, his grip like iron, and led her off the dance floor. "We are leaving," he said. "But the wedding?" "The wedding is over for us," he said sharply. He signaled Kai with a sharp look. Kai moved instantly, speaking into his earpiece. They moved toward the exit. Amara felt her legs shaking.
"Minjun, I'm scared."
"If he's here, he knows where I am." "You are with me," Minjun said, his voice furious but controlled. "And if that man is connected to your past, then he just made a fatal mistake." The ride back to the mansion was silent and terrifying. Minjun was on his phone, speaking in rapid-fire Korean, giving orders that sounded like military commands. Amara sat in the corner, hugging herself. When they arrived, Minjun didn't take her to the staff quarters. He took her straight to his private office in the west wing of the mansion. "Sit," he ordered, pointing to a leather chair. She sat. Minjun paced behind his desk, loosening his tie. Kai stood by the door, locking it. "Tell me everything," Minjun said, slamming his hands onto the desk. "Who is Damon Cross and why did you run from him?" Amara took a shaky breath. 2 years ago, I worked at a diner in Chicago. One night, I went out back to take out the trash. I saw Damon and 2 other men beating a man to death in the alley.
Minune sasnerot.
Did they see you? Damon did, she whispered. He smiled at me. He told me if I went to the police, he would find me. I ran that same night. I changed my name. I moved states. I took the job here because I thought a fortress like this would be safe. And you didn't tell me, Minjun said, his voice tight. I was afraid, she cried. I was afraid of bringing trouble to your house.
Minjun stopped pacing.
He looked at her, his expression softening slightly. He walked around the desk and crouched in front of her, taking her trembling hands in his. Amara, look at me. She met his gaze. You think a street thug like Damon Cross scares me? He asked. You think he is trouble for me? He's dangerous, she insisted. I am the danger, Minjun said, his voice low and vibrating with power. I am the one who knocks on the door at night. Damon Cross is a nuisance.
But now
he has targeted you. He stood up, pulling her up with him. You are no longer staff, Amara. You are under my personal protection. You will stay in the guest room in my wing. You do not leave this house without me. Do you understand? Minjun, you can't. I can and I will, he said. Because whether you like it or not, you belong to me now. The next morning, the threat escalated. A package was delivered to the main gate. Inside was a phone. It rang as soon as Kai brought it to the office. Minjun put it on speaker. Hello, Park. Damon's voice sneered through the speaker. Nice party last night. You have 5 seconds to explain why you are still breathing in my city, Minjun said calmly. Damon laughed. I want the girl. She's a loose end. She saw things that can put me away. Hand her over, and I leave your business alone. Keep her, and I start releasing information about your operations to the feds. I know about the shipment coming in next week. Amara gasped, covering her mouth. Damon had leverage. You are threatening me? Minjun asked, sounding almost bored. I'm making a deal, Damon said. Meet me at the old docks at midnight. Bring the girl, or I burn your empire down. The line went dead. Minjun stared at the phone. Kai looked at him. Boss, if he knows about the shipment. He knows nothing, Minjun said. He is bluffing. I have to go, Amara said, her voice shaking. I can't let him hurt you. Minjun turned to her, his eyes blazing. You are not going anywhere. He wants me, she yelled. If I go, he leaves you alone. If you go, he kills you, Minjun shouted back. And I will not allow that. Why? She asked, tears streaming down her face. Why do you care so much? I'm just a maid. Minjun closed the distance between them in 2 strides. He grabbed her shoulders, his grip desperate. Because you are the only person who makes me feel human, he confessed, his voice raw. Because when I walked into that kitchen, I didn't see a maid. I saw the woman I want to wake up next to. I saw the woman I want to protect. Amara stared at him, stunned. We are going to the docks, Minjun said, regaining his composure. But we are not going to surrender. We are going to end this. The docks were dark and smelled of salt and rust. 3 black SUVs rolled into the open space. Minjun stepped out, flanked by Kai and 6 other guards. He wore a tactical vest over his white shirt. He opened the back door and helped Amara out. She was wearing a bulletproof vest under a jacket. Stay behind me, he ordered. Damon Cross stood under a flickering streetlight with 4 of his own men. He grinned when he saw them. Smart choice, Park, Damon called out. Send her over. Minjun stepped forward, shielding Amara with his body. I am not here to trade. Damon frowned. Then why are you here? To give you a choice, Minjun said. You leave this city right now or you die here. Damon laughed, pulling a gun from his waistband. I have the leverage, Park. I have the info. You have nothing, Minjun said. He snapped his fingers. Suddenly, floodlights from the surrounding cranes turned on, blinding Damon and his men. Red laser dots appeared on their chests. Minjun's snipers were everywhere. You are playing checkers, Minjun said coldly. I am playing chess. I own these docks. I own the police captain you thought you were bribing. And I own the ground you are standing on. Damon's face went pale. He looked around, realizing he was completely surrounded. And as for the evidence against you, Minjun continued, pulling out his own phone. My team hacked your cloud storage an hour ago. We found the video of the murder. It has already been sent to the FBI anonymously. They are on their way to your safe house right now. Damon dropped his gun. His men raised their hands. It's over, Minjun said. Get out of my sight. If I ever see you near her again, there will be no police. Only me. Damon scrambled into his car with his men and sped away, defeated. Amara let out a sob of relief. Minjun turned to her immediately, the cold mask falling away. He pulled her into his arms, burying his face in her neck. You're safe, he whispered. I told you, you're safe. Back at the mansion, the adrenaline faded, leaving only exhaustion and a strange, electric tension. They stood in the middle of Minjun's bedroom. You saved my life, Amara said softly. You risked everything. I risked nothing that mattered more than you, he replied. He took off his jacket and tossed it on a chair. He looked at her, really looked at her. Amara, he said, I cannot go back to how things were. I cannot have you cleaning my kitchen while I sit in this office, wanting you. I don't want to go back either, she admitted, stepping closer. I am a dangerous man, he warned. My life is not easy. There will be other enemies. There will be other nights like this. I know, she said. She reached out and took his hand, her dark skin contrasting against his. But I don't want to be safe if it means being without you. Minjun exhaled, a sound of pure relief. He cupped her face with both hands.
Then stay.
Not as my maid. As my partner. As my love. Yes, she whispered. He kissed her then. It wasn't a tentative kiss. It was a claiming. It was deep and passionate, full of all the words he couldn't say. The Korean Mafia boss, the man who never smiled, the man who feared nothing, had fallen. And he had fallen hard. As they stood there, wrapped in each other's arms, Amara realized that the green dress wasn't a costume. It was the beginning of her new life. A life where she wasn't invisible. A life where she was loved by the most dangerous man in the world, and for the first time, she wasn't afraid. This story reminds us that love often arrives in the most unexpected forms, and that true strength is not just about wielding power, but about knowing when to protect those who are vulnerable. Minjun's journey teaches us that judging someone by their social status, whether a maid or a mafia boss, blinds us to their true character and integrity. It highlights the moral value of facing our pasts with courage, as Amara did, rather than letting fear dictate our futures. Furthermore, it shows that vulnerability is a strength. Minjun only found true happiness when he lowered his walls and allowed himself to trust. Ultimately, the story is a testament to the fact that everyone deserves to be seen, respected, and loved for who they are, not what they do for a living. What did you think about Minjun's decision to risk his empire for Amara? Do you think you could be as brave as Amara was in facing her past? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this emotional roller coaster of romance and danger, please subscribe to our channel and hit the like button. Thank you for watching.